Good afternoon. We've just held the last Queensland Disaster Management Committee meeting for the disaster, which was the rainfall event following ex-tropical cyclone Jasper. Having said that, we continue to monitor river levels flood levels around Kawanyama, so there's still work underway there. Door knocking of residents has been undertaken by police to get messaging out about safety and vulnerable people. Some have already been evacuated to Cairns. The evacuation of Wudjil and Tagara continues. We're now up to 220 people. As of this morning, that was 220 people relocated. As of 6 a.m. today, about 1,200 residents or businesses remain without power. Highways are slowly reopening, although some will take some time. Can I just say that I conveyed on behalf of Queenslanders to all of the members of the Queensland Disaster Management Committee their thanks for really working around the clock throughout this entire event. They've done a sterling job, and I've asked them to pass that on to their staff and their agencies, including the Bureau. Did you want to do your update?
Thank you, Premier. So the Bureau of Meteorology update for today is that we have got significant river level rises occurring in several catchments across the Cape, and we will continue to see these rises over the next few days as floodwaters move downstream. We are expecting major flood levels at Kawanyama along the Magnificent Creek in the coming days, and there are a couple of peaks that are moving through this river catchment. We are expecting those peaks to start coming through Kawanyama from Saturday through to about Monday next week. In terms of rainfall across North Queensland, we are looking at seasonal showers and thunderstorms with some locally heavy but short duration rainfall occurring with that shower and thunderstorm activity. This activity is not expected to be widespread in nature or significantly contribute to flood conditions in North Queensland. And along the North Tropical Coast, we have seen floodwaters recede quite rapidly through those catchments, and all flood warnings for the North Tropical Coast have now been finalised, which is really nice to see. Elsewhere across the state, we are expecting a severe thunderstorm outbreak to occur for much of central, southern and southeast Queensland in the coming days from this afternoon through the weekend, and this may persist into early next week as well. There are some early indications that we may see localised very dangerous thunderstorms dotted in the mix for some parts of this region, and this activity may occur during the Boxing Day, the Christmas Eve, Christmas Day and Boxing Day period as well. So I would encourage Queenslanders just to keep an eye on the forecasts and any warnings as we head through the next several days. In terms of the flood conditions at Kawanyama, the major flood levels that we are expecting there may be equivalent to or greater than the events that we saw in 2000 and 2009. And as I've mentioned, we are expecting multiple peaks to be moving through the river catchment. So there will be a few days where we'll be needing to keep an eye on the situation as the situation evolves. We are looking at multiple peaks moving downstream. So there will be a couple of days in a row where we will be needing to keep an eye on those observations across Cape Rivers and in particular at Kawanyama. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Just a couple of things from a policing perspective. We will put and continue to put substantial resources into far north Queensland to replenish tired staff, but also to make sure that we have high visibility patrols and that we look after those communities as we go from response into recovery. A lot of that staff is coming from the rest of Queensland and from the southern part of the state. As the Premier has alluded to, pleasingly 220 people have been evacuated from Wudjil into PCYC and other parts of Cooktown. That has gone incredibly smooth, very complex operation and certainly has taken some time, but 50 of those will also move today. We have established an Operation Victor Conrad using extra police resources to conduct anti-looting high visibility patrols in our suburbs of vulnerability in and in our towns that are vulnerable at the moment. We have seen 3 cases of looting already. Sadly, we do see this after some events. Thankfully, only a few cases, but we will continue those patrols to make sure those areas are safe as we continue into Christmas as well as the New Year. Lastly, I just wanted to touch on the 85-year-old gentleman that is missing from Djara. Certainly he is still missing, and the search for him will continue in the coming days. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Can I say emergency services are continually monitoring and working with the Bureau in relation to the flood levels in the catchments surrounding Kawanyama. We have good indications upstream at Dunbar Station of those flood levels, and we've seen the first peak of the flood levels come through Dunbar Station, which is again around that 2,000 flood level that we saw with the flood in Kawanyama. As the Bureau has indicated, we've got a couple of more peaks to come through, and we'll continue working with the Bureau over that. Significant preparations being made in Kawanyama. Today, the Kawanyama Council did significant earthworks up there to protect the community of any flooding event. We issued our first emergency alert to the people of Kawanyama last evening as a watch and act, and the police in town, the extra police in town, have started door knocking each of the community members today. Well, I've confirmed that all of our vulnerable people in Kawanyama have been evacuated prior to any flooding occurring. We've got considerable water, fuel, aviation gas and food in the town. These are towns that do get isolated for long periods of time during monsoonal events. They are well practiced at this sort of flooding levels that we see. But we've got our entire disaster management network at both district, local and state ready to support with aviation assets and anything that is required. Yesterday I spoke of the work that was being undertaken right across the Cape to access the 35 isolated communities. I can now confirm that we have accessed every one of those communities, and I'm pleased to report that we do not have any missing persons from those communities, any serious injury, and resupply will now continue into those communities around food, water and medication while they remain isolated. Thank you.
Thanks, Premier. I'd just like to confirm that we've got almost 200 additional resources in people assisting the local emergency service people. They've been obviously working for more than a week now, so we're getting plenty of fresh legs during this recovery operations. We've got our damage assessment teams in the field, and they've conducted almost 2,500 damage assessments, which is really important information that will be provided to councils and the state agencies so that we know where to prioritise our efforts. And the last thing I would say is that people in Northern Queensland are in the streets helping each other, neighbours helping neighbours, and it's great to see. But for those of you who do require further assistance, please ring the SES or 132 500 number. We have plenty of crews in the ground from the Fire and Rescue Service and also the Rural Fire Service who are able to assist you in your washouts. So for those of you who do need assistance, we encourage you to submit your request for assistance during that through the SES app or the 132 500 number. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, in terms of Kawanyama, are there any plans, I guess, again, to evacuate other parts of the town? And in terms of the flooding, how extensive will it be across Kawanyama?
So in the 2000 flood, which is the levels that we're working on, obviously planning if we need to, to go above that. We saw 22 low-lying houses affected in the community to a slight level. So we're not planning to evacuate Kawanyama at this point in time. As indicated, the Mayor and the community there, the Council, have undertaken significant earthworks today, which weren't in place in 2000. So we think that's an additional mitigation strategy. But we do have aviation assets available, and we'll continue to monitor that should something happen. Once Kawanyama becomes isolated, if there's any medical issues or anything there, we're ready to support the community.
The airport is located right next to the creek. Is it still going to be functioning?
Well, the airport is available to us now. We'll monitor that through. In most of those small communities, we do lose the airport, and that's why I have aerial rotary wing assets available. Thank you.
You said that had already been evacuated. How many is that?
I'm sorry, I don't have those numbers. We work with health. Do a fantastic job. We know our vulnerable people in the community, whether or not they're through chronic illness or whether they're, due to pregnancy, young children. The community work with us, with health, and we evacuate those people well in advance. That was undertaken a couple of days ago. Those people are not in evacuation centres. They've been moved into Cairns. They reside with family, friends, and this is, like I said, those communities in the north go through monsoonal flooding, isolation nearly every year, and this is a precautionary measure we take.
That 85-year-old man, the search continues. Why, I guess, what information does QPS have to suggest that an active search and rescue to find him alive remains possible?
It's a difficult one. We will keep searching. So what happened was we knew family had contact with him late on the 17th, and he could not be heard from on the following day. So they reported him missing. So we will continue to search, and there will come a point in time that we feel that nothing else can be done, but we have not got to that point in time yet.
Is there a possibility perhaps that he has simply lost contact, doesn't have a phone on him, or some other...
No, he did have a phone. So we know he definitely had a phone, and we can't contact that phone now. So I've got to say our concerns are grave concerns, but certainly we've got a few days before we'll make a decision on that.
We've heard reports from locals in the area that a body has been found near Woodrell. There's no confirmation on that from police?
No confirmation yet, and obviously we will not confirm that until the body is positively identified.
Thank you.
I've got a question for the Premier. So 2 teens were charged for Beaumont's murder again today, and his parents have been saying that the new Premier might not be as tough on juveniles. What do you have to say in response to that?
Look, nobody should go through what the Beaumonts have gone through, and it's just heartbreaking. I can't comment on the case or the sentencing that is still progressing through the courts. I have, though, been a very strong voice for tougher laws so that we can keep our community safe. I have a strong track record of defending that position, and I'll continue to do so.
Just for the Deputy Commissioner, or possibly the Premier, do we have the latest figures on property damage?
Yes, we do have those figures. We've assessed 2,600 properties, but over getting close to 1,000, 1,100 have damage that will require some significant repair. So we'll provide that information to council, and that's obviously passed on to the agencies to get support to those houses. But there's a lot of damage up there.
And for those people that have that damaged house, are they in evacuation centres? And do we have numbers on evac?
So there are some small numbers still in evacuation centres, but most of the people are staying with friends and family up there because they're obviously from the communities. But there'll be a lot of houses that will require some significant repairs before they're habitable.
Is there a breakdown, I guess, on how many homes are completely destroyed? The different levels of destruction.
Yes, there are. I can provide them to you after this in terms of the exact numbers, but we prioritise it from a total loss through to a minor, medium and severe, and there's a calculation on how they are calculated, and at medium or severe it's pretty much uninhabitable.
Quantities on, I guess, loss of livestock or of crops or any of those kind of things?
That assessment's not undertaken by QFES, but I'm sure the relevant ministers will be able to answer that.
Just quickly to the Deputy Commissioner as well, how many communities are cut off still, isolated?
Look, we still have a number of small communities isolated up through the Cape. I indicated the other day, these aren't large townships. These could be a cluster of 5 homes or outback stations. For instance, now we know Dunbar Station is totally isolated, near Kowanyama. But Dunbar Station, again, these small Cape communities are used to isolation. So they are fully resourced, they are fully stocked. Dunbar Station has its own helicopter for evacuation if needed. So we will continue to see isolated communities up through that Cape area. But we now know that some of our major communities we were concerned about, the communities north of the Daintree River, for instance, we can now access via the Daintree Ferry. So that has been fantastic. The road network up that way is considerably damaged. So we know the road network, for instance, in the Wudjil is non-passable. You know, that will take some time for repair, but most of the areas are now getting workarounds.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thank you.